audience, greetings, and a very warm, heartfelt welcome to the Conscious Conversation series. What you are stepping into today is not just a program or a panel, it is a gathering of five women who have each walked their own path of inner work and who now come together with one shared intention. Do you want to know what is that? To hold space for conversations that matter. We live in a world that moves fast and speaks loudly, but the conversations that truly change us, the ones about who we are beneath our roles, our relationships, and our responsibilities, those conversations rarely happens out in the open. This series exists to change that. Five coaches, five distinct journeys, one collective voice that says, your inner life deserves to be spoken about, explored, and celebrated. Whether you are here because something within you is stirring, because you are navigating a transition, or simply because you are curious, you belong here. There is no right way to arrive. There is only the willingness to show up. These conversations are not performances, they are invitations to reflect, to recognize yourself, what is shared, and to walk away with something that stays with you long after the session ends. We are honored to have you all here with us. Let the conversations begin. Each one of these bold and beautiful women will now enrich and empower you by sharing their vibrant and life chiseled experiences. Here comes Janvi. Come on, Janvi.
Thank you so much, Anbarasi ji, for this beautiful, beautiful introduction. Thank you for welcoming me here. Hello, everyone. I'm Janvi. So I think if somebody had, met me a couple of years ago, they would have probably described me as a person who's very outspoken, very expressive, always ready to fight for what is the right. That's the image I've always had. And I think a big reason behind all of that was what I've seen growing up. So I had seen so many women around me constantly adjusting, suppressing their emotions, and quietly carrying so much within themselves. And somewhere, I think as a child, I became very aware that this is something I never wanted to become. So I think in my mind, I decided very early on, no matter what happens in life, I will never ever lose my voice. So naturally, what happens then is you become the complete opposite. And that's what I became. I questioned things openly. I reacted very quickly. I spoke very strongly. And before I realized I had become someone who would fight for everyone around me. I remember there was a point in my life when even if something felt extremely unfair, I would immediately step in. If somebody I loved was hurt, I would react instantly. And for a long time, I genuinely thought this was my strength. And I thought that if I kept speaking very strongly or reacting immediately or even constantly proved my point, then I would never lose myself. Before I realized all of this, I had started approaching my own relationships in the same way as well. But eventually, life and relationships humbled me in a way I did not see coming. Because after a point, I started realizing something very uncomfortable. Even when I was expressing something internally, I was never at peace. Like, even after the arguments had ended, I would rehearse conversations in my head again and again. I would overthink every point discussed. I would emotionally exhaust myself trying to explain my point to the opposite person, trying to feel understood, trying to make the other person see what I was feeling. And I think one of the biggest shifts in my life happened when I stopped focusing on why is the other person not understanding me and started asking how am I showing up in my relationships. And I think that question alone changed a lot for me. For the first time, I started observing myself very, very clearly. And eventually, I realized that constantly reacting, and trying to explain myself all the time was exhausting me mentally and physically. And that understanding changed me. So I became calmer as a person, not quieter, not weaker, just a lot more calmer. I stopped carrying so much of emotional assumptions and expectations in my mind. And for the first time, I started experiencing much more calmness, not just in my relationships, but personally within myself too. And around the same time, that's when I also started noticing many women carry so much similar emotions in very different ways. Some stayed silent, some over explained themselves, some constantly overthought. And I think that's when I realized something extremely deeply. Women don't always need to be told what to do. Sometimes they first need a space where they can feel understood. That's when the work that I'm doing started becoming extremely personal to me. So it was not any longer just about my own growth. It slowly became about creating spaces where women could feel more heard, more emotionally at peace, and more like themselves again. Thank you so much for listening to me. I'd now like to invite Nirmala to share her story with all of us.
Thank you so much, John. It's when I heard your story, I felt wow, the way you have evolved, right? It felt very inspirational. So, about me, for most of my life, people knew me as a good girl, a responsible person, a good daughter, a good friend, a kind person who would always be there for others. And honestly, I took pride in that. I grew up in a family with financial struggles. My education happened because many people supported me, people who believed in my future. I completed my engineering and entered the corporate world through campus placements. I worked with three different MNCs for nearly 14 years. My parents are very much proud of me. But I grew up becoming someone who never asked for much, not even small things. Overthink that slowly became my personality. Even after marriage, I continued living the same way, thinking about responsibilities, future savings, and everyone else's needs before my own. From the outside, my life looked very stable and successful. But somewhere within me, there was always a feeling that something was missing. I felt like my heart is closed, like I was living my life but not truly feeling alive. Outside, I still looked strong, responsible, and composed, but inside, I was exhausted, lonely, emotionally overwhelmed, and silently breaking down. There were days I cried alone without even understanding what exactly was wrong with me. And at the saddest part was, people around me could not see that I was struggling. That phase became my wake up call. Over time, I got introduced to life coaching and met my amazing mentor, Pooja Puneet. So she helped me to understand and practice emotional awareness. And honestly, that changed the way I understood life. For the first time, I started understanding my emotions instead of suppressing them. I understood that being kind to others is beautiful, but not at the cost of abandoning ourselves. I learned that emotional intelligence is not just for people in crisis. It is something every human being needs. Because I genuinely believe if someone had taught me emotional awareness, self kindness, and conscious living much earlier in life, my journey would have been very different. Today, my external problems may not have magically disappeared. Life still happens. But now I feel more conscious while living through it. I don't drown in my emotions the way I used to. I understand myself better. I respond instead of collapsing internally. And that transformation became the reason I chose to be a life coach. Because many of us are not failing in life, we are simply disconnected from ourselves. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Now I would like to call Anbarasi to share her story, the strong lady of our tribe.
Thank you so much, Nirmala, for that wonderful introduction about me. Indeed, listening to you make me realize how life transforms out of the experiences and the lessons that we have learned. What a stunning story of transformation is yours. Thank you for making us feel that life should be taken care of. Only then we can take care of others. What to say about me? Yeah, I am Dr. Anvarasi Sundaram from Innate Shakti. That is my brand. Like many of you, I once had a plan for my life when I was a young girl, a clear one, a certain one, a dream I had carried from my childhood with a conviction that felt unshakable. I was going to be a doctor. That was the dream I had been holding. I grew up as a Tamil medium student in a home where ambitions were nurtured quietly and hard work was the only currency we knew, so to say. When I secured good marks in my plus two, and I was so hopeful that I'll be getting admitted in a medical college to be a medical student, I felt perhaps for the first time in my life that the life I had imagined was truly within my reach. But the medical education would be in English, right? And so, I, being a shivering Tamil medium student inwardly, I enrolled temporarily in English literature course for my BA, as joining in a medical college will take 2 or 3 more months' time. So I consider this to be just a bridge, just a waiting room until my real life in the medical college began. But that medical seat never came. In that moment, I did not feel brave. I did not feel philosophical. I felt the particular grief of someone whose identity had just been taken away from them without warning. என்ன சொல்லுவாங்க? So what will people say was not just an abstract fear. It was the air I breathed every day. And the quietest, most painful question of all was one I could barely voice. If I'm not going to be a doctor, then who am I? So that was the question that started haunting me day in and out. I made a choice, not a dramatic one, not a courageous one in the beginning, simply a choice to stop mourning the door that had closed and to walk fully and honestly through the one I was standing in. That Tamil medium girl student who stumbled into English literature by accident went on to earn a doctorate in it. She became a professor, a principal. She guided 15 PhD scholars to their own doctoral degrees. She published many books. She spoke in many meetings. She led. And slowly, through decades of teaching, mentoring, counseling, and sitting with people in their most difficult moments and situations, she understood something she could not have learned any other way. The detour from being a medical college student to that of an arts student was never a mistake. The detour was the making of her, because it was precisely the experience of feeling lost, redirected, and uncertain of her own worth that equipped her to walk beside others in exactly that place. You cannot truly guide someone through a storm you have never entered yourself. Don't you think so? So the storm that I experienced in my life, in fact, did not strangle me, but strengthened me. So that is for the time being. Thank you. And now I invite Usha for her greatest presentation. Waiting to hear to you, Usha. Usha.
Thank you so much, Anbarasi. Your story truly speaks volume. So inspirational. And thank you for such a warm welcome. The journey of life is always a roller coaster. Even a hard line is never straight. I left my high paying corporate job because my 3-year-old daughter once told me, I don't want toys. I want you to be at home. The very next day, I resigned. That moment, I thought I was simply choosing family over career. I never realized I was also stepping into loneliness, identity shift, emotional exhaustion, and simple sacrifices many women carry without speaking about it. I am Usha Valya Parambil, founder of The Clarity Nest. My story, like many women, I once believed success meant strong career, financial independence, recognition, and constant achieving. But life has its own way of redefining us. Initially, after resigning, life felt beautiful, almost like a perfect Karan Johar movie. But slowly, life slipped into Shah Rukh Khan style, Main Hoon Na. I became the emotional support system, the problem solver, the listener, the manager, the password to everyone's needs. And somewhere between motherhood, responsibilities, endless roles, I slowly lost parts of myself. Office colleagues no longer related to me. To them, I was no longer updated. For them, I had become too raw. Homemakers found me difficult to blend with. I was almost like a finished product to them. Too corporate for one world, too emotional for another. And somewhere between those identities, loneliness entered silently. But one thing I never forgot was why I had made that decision. Books became my companion. I believe one of the best ways of raising children is through bedtime stories. Conversations, values, emotional presence become learning spaces. And one story shared by Sudhar Murthy stayed with me forever. She once visited a very wealthy home with Mr. Narayan Murthy. Everything looked very luxurious from the outside, and dinner was served in silverware. But while returning home, she quietly said, I found them very poor. Surprised Murthy was thinking, what more could they have possibly? And they had everything, which any person, any layman would dream of. And she simply replied, there wasn't even one corner filled with books. That line changed something inside me forever. Because true wealth is not only what we display outside, it is also about what nourishes our mind, our values, our soul. A house can be financially rich, yet emotionally, spiritually, and intellectually empty. So, what I learned as my children slowly grew older and became independent, boredom quietly started knocking doors. So, I began learning. I became a numerologist, pranic healer, psychotherapist, crystal healing, and many more to add on, like candle magic, affirmations, journalizing. Every course taught me something valuable. Every course kept my mind occupied. But something still felt missing. I always loved talking to people and helping them untangle their thoughts and emotions. And that understanding slowly led me towards life coaching. But eventually, I realized life is not about quick fixes, it's about right fixes. And my teacher always told me when we contribute towards someone's life, you need to stay well versed and keep evolving. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I now welcome Vinita. So eager to hear your story. Over to you, dear.
Thank you, Ushaji. It was so insightful to listen to your story, your journey, and I'm happy that you found yourself again. And thank you for that warm welcome. Hi, I'm Vinita, a life design coach. To share about myself, I need to go back to 2018. After my second delivery, I was going through postpartum depression. It was not a clinical postpartum depression, but I was going through a kind of postpartum depression. I was carrying a fear of death, and the people around me, my husband, my parents, my in laws, everyone was supporting me, but I couldn't find myself. always I used to sit and cry thinking that if I die, what my kids will do? How will they survive? My little one was just 4 months old, and I was struggling a lot. Weeks, months passed by with the same thoughts, with the same feelings, with the same fear. And nobody around me couldn't make out, couldn't understand what I was going through. And after months struggling a lot, I felt I need to come out. But how? There was no answer for that. And one day I felt that I need to come out of this overthinking. So that I need to put myself into something. So I started watching YouTube videos. Started with entertainment, but I couldn't focus because I was not in that entertainment mode. And started watching motivational videos, which helped me to find something different. But that also didn't help that much. And finally, maybe it was a divine decision. I started watching, or Bhagavad Gita teachings came in front of me, which helped me a lot. I don't know how I came out, but it gave me a kind of light. I started thinking, or I started looking life positively. And somehow I came out from all this overthinking process. And I felt that I need to restart my life. I was almost 8 years into homemaker role. And as a software engineer, I was completely outdated from my role. I didn't know what should I start, how can I start. I thought, okay, let me do something different. I started to applying to different schools and finally became a kindergarten teacher. But still, I was not happy. There was something missing. So that as I was very passionate about teaching maths, I thought, let me do B.Ed in maths and become a maths teacher. I pursued B.Ed in maths and started applying in schools. But life was different. I became pregnant for the third time. So I took a decision to be at home because I was going through some health conditions. And during those days, I felt that I need to something to do different. And I started searching in internet, what can I do further? And finally, I met a mentor where she was a mind power coach. I enrolled to her class and started learning something different, which was new to me. I don't know, that 1 month completely changed my life, my perspective. I changed from a negative person to a positive person. Not only me, hundreds of people in that group started changing. I was truly amazed by seeing the success stories each and everyone was sharing. And I felt, and that was the first time I'm hearing the term life coach. I continued the journey with her 3 months. After that, I felt, let me try from someone else. I found my new mentor. Even there, the result was same. She was also putting light into people's life. People were able to come out from this struggling phase. And I felt, why can't I become a life coach? Even I can shed light to people's life. But still, I had a lot of doubts whether I have the quality to become a life coach. But it took me 2 years to rediscover myself. And one day in YouTube, I found my coach, Pooja Punit, where I decided that, yes, I am going to become a life coach to put light in people's life. Because I know how much I struggled in my life, and my mentor helped me to rediscover myself. And I wanted to do the same to the people around me. And here I am as a life design coach to help women to rediscover themselves, to redesign their life so that they can find a new them. Thank you. So we all shared our life stories. I want to know the learnings that everyone have on their life. I welcome Janvi to share your learnings to the people.
Hey, Vanita, thank you so much for the welcome. Your story was amazing. It gave me, at a point, gave me goosebumps because I know what pregnancy can do to you. So, a lot to learn from you. Now, starting with my learnings, I think as a part of my journey from what I was as a person to what I became now, I think if there's one thing I would genuinely want women to take away from my journey, is this one thing. I don't think women should suppress their voice or silence their needs or stop expressing what they truly feel. Like, even today, I express myself very openly. I say what I feel. I communicate my needs very clearly. But what changed for me was the way I started handling situations and communication in my own relationships. Earlier, I think a lot of my reactions came from the need to either prove a point or to feel understood. Today, I think my communication comes from a space of understanding, calmness, and a lot of responsibility too. And honestly, I think that changed so much for me because slowly I realized that I cannot control the other person's 50%, but I can definitely give my 100% to the 50% part that I play in my own relationships. And I think that understanding itself changed not just my relationships, but the kind of women I simply started becoming too. And I think I owe a lot of this to this one mentor. I don't really get influenced by anyone easily, but Pooja Puneet made a huge difference in my life. So I owe her a big chunk of this. And to all women listening today, I just want to say this one thing: you are not too much, you are just unheard. And now over to you, Nirmala. Let's listen to your learnings.
Thank you, Janvi. You said it very rightly. Like we all should take own responsibility for our part of our actions, and I'm so happy for you. About my learning, what my journey has taught me, right? In schools and colleges, we are all taught how to succeed, how to respect others, and how to build our careers. But very few people actually teach us how to understand ourselves, how to process our emotions, how to be emotionally safe within our own mind. Today, my mission is simple. I want to help people to reconnect with themselves before they completely lose themselves in responsibilities, expectations, and survival. I want people to understand that uh, peace is not found after life becomes perfect. Peace begins when we start becoming present with ourselves. Life will continue to happen around us, but learning how to live consciously within it, between all that chaos, that is where our power lies. I have one story listened from Gaur Gopal Das. So he told me a message at the end of that story. It stuck with me very deeply. What he said is, it's not about becoming a millionaire or billionaire. It's about filling your own cup first. And I truly believe that when we learn to fill our own cup with awareness, kindness, and emotional clarity, we naturally begin to pour better into the world around us. So, my dears, start noticing, start living your life. Now, Anbarasi, I'm interested to know about your learnings and the message you have to others. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Nirmala, for this opportunity again. Actually, Nirmala, the way you presented made me contemplate on one point. The formal education that we obtain through educational institutions help us to only survive in this world, but it is this functional education, especially life coaching, enables you to live life consciously and to the fullest. Wow, what a great idea. And that is really so awe-inspirational. Thank you for sharing that fantastic thought of yours. Now, what I learned through my experience, both as a professor and then as a life coach, and what I want you all, the audience, other than we five women, what I want all of you also to hold so firmly is this. If you are at crossroads today, if life has redirected your plan, your career, your identity, or your sense of self, I want you to hear this. A detour is not at all a defeat. It is not evidence that you are less. It is not a sign that life has abandoned you. It is simply the road taking you with more wisdom than you currently possess towards something your original plan was too small to hold. Keep walking, my dear ones. Keep trusting. Keep becoming, because the most powerful version of you is not the one who arrived without difficulty. It is the one who found herself through it in spite of that. Thank you all for being here and for holding space for these stories today. If something in this stirred you, please stay close with us. At Innate Shakti, we believe every woman carries within her the seed of her own transformation. Our work is simply to help that seed find its own light. Thank you. And now I invite my beloved life coach, my beloved fellow life coach, Usha. Usha, the way you contemplated and told how education makes a man perfect, that is in even Francis Bacon saying, reading maketh a perfect man. That was the exact statement made by Francis Bacon, a great essayist of English literature. And your realization when Sudhamurthy told that this house, despite the ostentatious wealth, is really poverty stricken because there is no book. Love to hear more from you, Usha.
Thank you so much, Anbarasi. Truly a lovely learning to be imbibed from you as well. So, my takeaways: if life has paused your career, your confidence, your identity, or your direction, please remember, a pause is not the end of your story. Sometimes life removes you from one role only to reconnect you to your deeper purpose. Keep learning, keep evolving, keep nurturing your inner world. Because growth is not only about earning more, sometimes it is about becoming more. Over to you, Vinita. Looking forward to hearing your takeaways as well.
Yes, thank you, Ushaji, for this opportunity, and I'm happy to hear that word becoming. And I feel that we are all in the journey of becoming. Yeah, but what I learned in my life is that problems doesn't come to break us. What I believe is that problems becomes the turning point of our life. When I struggled with postpartum depression, I didn't think that that will be a turning point of my life, and which gave me the strength, which gave me the power to face the problems in my life. So whatever the problems in your life, it makes you more powerful, more stronger than whoever you are. As we know that every lock comes with a key, every problem comes with a solution. So face the problem not in a victim mode, but in a mode that you're going to face it and becoming more stronger. So I want to say that you are more strong, more powerful than ever you are, and face not in a victim mode, but everything boldly. Thank you so much.
I think I would really like to thank each one of us, Anbarasi ji, Nirmala, Usha ji, Vinita, for sharing such amazing stories about your own journey, what inspired you towards the life coaching journey and your learnings. Thank you, all of the amazing audience that is listening to our stories on the series of the Conscious Conversations. If this resonated with any one of you in any ways, stay connected with us for more meaningful conversations, healing journeys, and life experiences. Thank you so much for being an amazing audience and listening to us so peacefully. Thank you again.